all those seeking vibrant health. It's Dr. Rachel Northern, and it's been a month or so since I've done a longer talk. And my topic this month that I picked to talk about family health and tips to create a healthy family. So I'm going to go on with that. So right here in the office today, recording, and a healthy family. So I have some questions to kind of open up your mind to kind of think about these particular topic, this health of your family. How often have you stopped and thought about your family or its health? So hopefully you think about your family all the time, but what about the health of your family? So here's one question, several questions here. What does your vision of a healthy family look like? So have you ever stopped and thought what healthy families look like? What kind of things they do? What are the things they're doing or not doing? And we're going to go over some of these topics of things that we know, activities, things that bring about healthy families, and what stops families from being healthy. So what stops you and your family? What interferes? What gets in the way of you guys maybe being better or healthier? Our society is just very sickly. Chronic sickness is rampant in our society. We have children that are obese and having even heart disease in elementary school and diabetes in elementary school now. So these are things we have to start thinking about in our family's dynamic. How can your family reach their optimal health? So I'm all about optimal health. Many times in many of my talks here, I've talked about health is defined as physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being, not just the absence of symptoms. So what does that look like for you? What does that look like for your family? A lot of times we pass on unhealthy habits, unhealthy behaviors onto our kids, onto our families. And what do you want to see happen? What is the vision you have? So let's go to the next one. So family mission or family strategy, healthy strategy. So do you have like a family mission or intention? Like I can say honestly, I haven't sat down and done this exercise with my family, but we do talk about in our family when we have family meetings of like what we want to represent. How does our family, what's our principles and the things we want to follow about in our family. And you also got to respect each family's unique. In our country, we have a lot of blended families, diversity in the families, and we want to make sure that you appreciate your family, however shape, form it is in. We want to appreciate the families that we have. And do you fall into comparison game? Do you tend to look at other families and envy them of what they're doing? And these questions aren't for that at all. I want you to think about how you can improve and how you can be better in your family. So if you admire another family for something that they're doing, evaluate it, see if it's something that'll be healthy for your family or match something that you guys can do as well. So for example of that, I knew about a family at my church that a couple nights a week they would read books out loud to each other, sisters that would do that, and I thought that was a great example of what a healthy emotional family would be like. And though we did not end up doing that, we do have a couple opportunities on vacations and certain times that we did that together, reading in the car, on long road trips, reading a book together. So that brought out some different dynamics. So I couldn't do it all the time with my family. It didn't quite work in the way our schedule is with my work schedule here. My husband's got a rotating work schedule. So we couldn't really incorporate that, but we found little times that we could incorporate that. So I'd like to see if that's maybe something that you want to incorporate in there, put it in as an option to try. So family values. What are your family values? Does your family value truth and integrity? My family's big about telling the truth all the time, and hopefully most people are that way. We want an honest society. We want to be able to pay it forward. But does your family know that? Do your kids know that? How about forgiveness and grace? That we are all human and we make mistakes, and our kids able to make mistakes and be able to know we love them no matter what. And also other people in our family, are we willing to forgive them? Now, not to say there's consequences to those behaviors if they're things that they did wrong that needed to have consequences, and they needed to have that, but is there a culture of forgiveness and grace? Love and respect, community and health. Is health even a value in your family? Maybe that's something you realize you don't even think about or care about. See if that's something you can start to instill in your family to talk about. And fun and creativity. I have one of my friends is an artist, and she loves doing artistic things with her family, and they have people that craft, and I am weaker in that area. I do try to bring crafts in when they were little, and now occasionally I try to do stuff with them as they're teenagers, but that's kind of where we're weaker at, and if they're good with that, then they're good with that. So we got to figure out if that is something that resonates with your family, something they want to do, then cultivate that. And of course, sports and activities, physical activities, what's going on, what kind of things do your children want to be involved in, and also make sure if they've been doing it for a long time that they still want to do it, not just because they're doing it, or maybe they feel pressure of, I have parents that live vicariously through their children and say, I want to play football, or I was in football, so you should play football. And we had, those kind of carryovers of legacy, but sometimes that child does not actually like it, and they're just doing it to appease the parents or appease the grandparent or appease somebody else. And make sure that it actually resonates with them, and that it's something that they want to do and is in their skill set that they want to activate and grow. And then academics, is your family really into knowing and good grades and those elevations or degrees or certifications. I have a lot of families that are really invested in those kind of diplomas or certifications, schooling, and you got to be careful too. Again, are you focusing on the wrong things? Is that causing stress? All the pressure of having to have all these checks off in a box. Now, in my family, we're split. I have 2 children, and my oldest is strong in academics, and my daughter is the opposite and strong in creativity. So I had to split the difference. Even in kindergarten, I had to realize they are different kids, and I had to treat them and cultivate them in different ways. And even with my daughter, I had to step outside the school system and go to find recreations, things that she would do, like sign language was not free, but it was a class at the community college, and so I enrolled her, and it didn't have an age limit on that, so I could enroll her pretty younger in her early teens, so it was kind of nice for that. So I had to cultivate, but you got to kind of figure out where they resonate towards and see if we can cultivate the things that they resonate with. And so we'll move on to the next slide. Family values, family plans. So Benjamin Franklin supposedly once said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And so I think that's one of the reasons why our culture and the American society, why we're so sickly, because we're really not planning health strategies. We're not really planning on incorporating things to have healthier lives or healthier families. So if we actually start making plans for this, I believe we can definitely see a shift and change in this. So do you have a plan to keep your family to move towards health, like feeding health? I talk about this in my book. Or are you swept away by sickness? Because if we don't focus on health and making sure we're putting the good things in and doing the good things, we're gonna just automatically default to sickness. So we don't want to not have that happen to our families. Do you have plans for quality time with your family, rest time, meal time, free time, activity time? We can keep on going on and on. You can Google any of these kind of lists and come up with what activities with your family that you want to plan to do. Now, one of my mentors and certain books I've read say, hey, maybe take an inventory of your family, of your time. Where do you spend your time, and what are you doing with your time? Maybe do it for over a week and see what each person is doing with their time, and then you'll get an idea of actually what you value, because whatever you're spending your most time on, then that's actually what's coming up. And if it's a value, you find that you're spending most of your time in unhealthy things, then that's an area you need to work on. So, number one thing, food. They say about 70 to 80% of our health is related to what we eat. So we're going to talk a lot about these different things. Do you eat breakfast? Now, we know some research for kids particularly. Now, it's different maybe with adults, but for kids particularly, we know the kids that eat breakfast, they tend to score higher in tests. They do better in school behavior-wise. We want to make sure also that their breakfast isn't junk food, or empty calories, sweets, cereals that are mostly sugar. You want to make sure that you get protein in there. You want to make sure you get an adequate amount of protein. Also in our American diet, I notice we are deficient in protein. So making sure they're getting good proteins in. How about colors? Are you eating, and not the rainbow skills, eating the rainbow. I'm talking about colors of plants and variety of different fruits, and getting all of the purples and the reds and the greens and the whites, even onions and garlic. All those things contribute to our health. There's tons of research and studies on the phytonutrients in the plants. So making sure you get a variety of different colors into your diet. Kids, are they helping you prepare your meals? Are they making their own plates? There's also some research talking about kids that learn portion control, that dish up their own plates, tend to be healthier and not be lean to obesity versus the parents who prepared their plates because they weren't taught or experienced how to give themselves a proper serving size. So when they get older, they tend to overeat. So you want to pay attention. Our American society, again, unfortunately, most of our serving sizes are 2 servings. When we go out to eat or go anywhere, we're overserved. And anytime I go to a restaurant or go out to eat, it's 2 meals. And so we have to also teach them when they're going out to eat that if it's too much food, we need to set some aside. Maybe for another meal, another time, making sure that they're paying attention to portion control, and also helping them learn how to cook. My son's in college now, but I made sure senior year, that he took home ec or cooking because I wanted to make sure he knew how to cook things, and he will have an apartment next year, and so he's going to have to experience like making food for himself, and I want him to know how to cook and how to do those things. That's kind of almost a lost art in some families. So are you teaching them those kind of things, helping them in the kitchen and letting them be in the kitchen? The healthy families that I have come into my office, they actually have, like, sometimes the kids have a certain night of the week that's their job, is to be the cook that night, and everybody else has to clean up. And it's been a great experience, and they've had some flops and they've had some good successes, but it's also a great experience of failure and realizing, okay, we can, guess we're gonna throw the pizza in the oven now because that didn't turn out so good, and it's okay, but at least you tried. You knew it didn't work out that way. So it's a good experience in life to go through these things and know what works and what doesn't. And then also, are we sitting down for dinner at a table? Are we sitting down for meals? Making sure that we're stimulating our rest and digest part of our nervous system. When we sit down and eat, we pause and make sure our digestive system is ready to receive food, and also it's a good time of socializing and finding out what's going on with your family. And the families that do this, again, there shows research that there's less teen pregnancy, less all these problems, juvenile problems. So it's just telling you what the research says. So trying to see if you can have at least a couple meals a night or a week where you're doing that. So meal planning. So the best research diet out there that's been done is the low-carb Mediterranean, to follow their style of eating, which is about 2 cups of veggies a day, 1 to 2 cups of fruit a day, healthy snacks with nuts and seeds. So like your walnuts, all your rich nuts and all the different nutrients we have, almonds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, they're all really great for your health. So I know I have a lot of families that have food allergies, but sometimes those people still can do seeds. You can also do, like, there's sunflower seed butter out there. So if you want to have them do sandwiches or things like that for the protein and the nutrients, you can try something new with that. There's a lot of things. Again, back to making sure we have a variety of colors, and also drinking water throughout the day. So some other studies that I've come across and books I've read talk about it, it's actually best, I mean, it's okay to drink a little bit during meals, your bigger meals, but actually it's best to drink water throughout the day away from meals. When the thing is, if you drink a lot while you're eating, it kind of dilutes some of your stomach acid and kind of affects your digestion a little bit. So they say you should hydrate through the day, but at meals maybe cut that down so that you can digest your food a little bit more efficiently. And there are some people that have helped overcome some of their digestive issues when they did that. And foods don'ts. Don't reward kids with food. It is not a good start, because we become the adults that reward ourselves with food. Then when we accomplish something, we'll do a cupcake. Could lead into emotional eating and obesity. So I tell people stickers, other things, crayons, tickets that they can then have like a little treasure box that they can pick something out of if they get so many tickets. Like there, you can do things with rewards. Okay, you can do cash if you want. My son was very motivated by quarters and dollars as he got older. It's gotten more expensive since he got older, but money was a good motivator for him. I definitely don't suggest rewarding with food. So I don't like certain groups that are with kids and they reward them with a candy bar or things, because that is not a good thing always. So, and don't use food to drown out boredom or anxiety, and maybe pay attention to your kids and see if they're doing this. When they're bored, they're just going to eat. I tell people do the gut and the head check. Pay attention. When you go in the kitchen or you're going to get something, is it because your stomach's telling you that you're hungry, that you want something, or is it your head telling you that you want something? So that's kind of it. If your stomach's okay, then it's the head, and then you need to find another way to process that emotion, or do something that with the boredom, find something else to do. So you must try, with my family and books I've read, they talk about, you must try the food, but not necessarily have to clean your plate, not forcing kids to clean their plate. My children, I would say you have to at least take one bite, if you like it or not. If you don't like it, at least one bite so you can taste it. My daughter is a very stubborn girl in my family, and there was a lot of times I could have a sweet potato or something, and she'd be like, I don't want it. And then I'm like, well, you know the rule, you gotta have one bite. And she'd take the bite, and then, okay, I did my part that I did, and wouldn't eat the rest of it. But the next time I served it, all of a sudden she would eat it. So it was kind of like the stubbornness, like I said I didn't want it, and then I'm gonna prove to you I didn't want it, but she really did want it. Or sometimes their taste buds actually evolve, and so my kids eat a lot more things than they did when they were younger. But my kids also eat Brussels sprouts. I introduced Brussels sprouts from the beginning with them, and when I told the doctor for their checkups when they were like 10 that they ate Brussels sprouts, she was perplexed. She was like, wow. And it's because I always introduce these foods to them and let them, experience it this way in a freedom. But don't force them to clean their plate, but have them at least venture out and try new things. So main thing too, reduce toxic exposure, which we're going to have some slides on this. So reduce your refined foods. So anything processed, anything packaged and broken down, they're usually got more sodium and unhealthy things and preservatives, food colorings, sugar, excess sugar in there, high fructose corn syrup, colorings. We have the genetically modified organisms, so that things are created in a lab. These seeds that have been created in a lab that not necessarily are healthy for our bodies. And sodas and caffeine. So that's caffeine for adults. I say in moderation. I don't. For children, they should not have any caffeine until they get to 18 or so, because it's not very good. There's research showing it can interfere with hormones and other things. So we do not want to have those things in their diet. So maybe take an inventory when you're doing that inventory of your time, maybe inventory your food and see how many of these things these negative things that are in your diet on a consistent basis as a family. And the healthy home. So what's all in your home? So we're going to talk a little bit about chemicals. Obviously, we just talked about the process and the sugar. You got to be careful with also medications in your home. If you have prescription medications that are needed for family members, then making sure that they are high locked up and monitored, because that is becoming a tendency of some kids getting into prescription meds and taking them when they shouldn't be. Some accidentally and some intentionally with teenagers. So we have once, usually in the spring, we have a medical drop-off, medicine drop-off box that we give to the police station who incinerates medications, and we kind of do spring clean your cabinets, because if you have medications that you don't need anymore, then they dispose of them safely and effectively. You do not want to have things in your house that could cause detriment health problems to your kids or someone else. So, and let's go up here. So vaping. So I've had many talks on vaping. It is not healthy. I have a lot of teens that are vaping. It's quite interesting when I do my history, when patients come in and I'll say, "Are you a smoker?" And they're like, "No." And then I'll be like, "Do you vape?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so they do not equate smoking and vaping in the same situation, though some of us older people do think that's the same. They do not see it as the same. It is still not healthy. The research started coming out last several months that it is not good for the lungs. Obviously, we kind of expected that, but now they're really saying it. So vaping, or just being around people who vape, it is a chemical you still can breathe in. It's not good for the kids to be around if you're doing it. Even though it's a little bit cleaner than smoke, it's still not good. Moderation, like alcohol, making sure as adults that we pay attention to our how much alcohol we can consume. It is a sugar, and it does go to fat if we overdo it. And then what chemicals do we have in our cabinets? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then also makeups. They also can absorb into our skin and cause problems of ill health and throw off hormones. So we're talking about healthy home. So minimize and avoid. So try to pick out best natural cleaning products. There's a lot of websites that are out there that talk about cleaning products and natural ones. There's a bunch of companies that have really good clean products that are effective and useful. I myself use Melaleuca brand company for my laundry detergent, things I clean with, and also stain removers. I also use here in the office Shackley brand germicides and all those healthier, non-toxic cleaning products. So that really just keeping everything, all the chemicals out of the environment, but also effective in doing what we need to do. Also, people talk plastics. Paying attention if you're drinking out of plastics consistently, and especially if it's hot or cold, because the plastics actually get into the water or whatever you're drinking, and actually you're drinking that down, and that your body has to get rid of that, and it can accumulate in your body. Also, even smelling plastics. So talking about carpets, maybe especially if new carpet comes in, you'll smell that chemical, and that can outgas at first. Over time, there has been testimonies of people getting severely sick from just having carpet installed into their home. So paying attention to those airborne things. Also candles and like the plug-ins, and making sure like they're more healthier, off-gassing, whatever they're melting, whatever fragrances are off, that they're not really a lot of chemicals in them. So, and make sure also your cleaning products, if you're cleaning with certain harsh cleaning products, that is a point where I would say yes. Make sure you're using masks, make sure you're using gloves if you need to use those harsh chemicals, and try to, again, make sure they're locked up tight, away from maybe small ones or children. So lotions, so we talked about skincare, but also lotions. Anything we put on our skin actually gets absorbed into our bloodstream. So we want to make sure that there's nothing artificial things in there, xenohormones they call some of these plastics that act like hormones that are in some of these products. I have gone to seminars where doctors have taught where somebody came in with a high level of certain hormones in their blood work and they couldn't figure out where they were getting it from, and it came down to a certain lotion or skincare product that they were actually using, and they actually sent it out to the lab and tested it and found out it had all this junk in there that was affecting the person's hormones just by putting it on their skin. Same with your hair. Anything we put on our hair or scalp's highly absorptive, so making sure you're paying attention to that. In the summertime, as we're entering, I'm so excited, sunblocks, paying attention to the chemicals in sunblocks. I advise people trying to use the zinc oxide, the titanium oxide. We naturally need zinc, so if you're putting zinc on your skin, that's great because we usually need that. So avoiding anything that starts with an O. Usually anything that starts with an O is not good on the sunblocks. And I know some of these are the pain in the butt ones because you got to rub them in a little bit deeper around, but they are the ones that are safer for your skin. And family activities. So family activities, like set routines and goals for daily physical activity. So look for ways you can be more active, taking the stairs, parking at the far end of the parking lot when you go places, taking time on lunch breaks, maybe to take a little walk on your lunch breaks. We can talk about bike, hike, swim, dance. If you had to have a dance party, have dance parties, schedule them in. Maybe Friday night will be the dance party night. Skate, roller blade. Rollerblades coming back. I've had a couple patients talk about they're buying rollerblades again, so I'm like excited about that. And fishing, there's also been a lot of people I've seen out fishing. So even though you're not moving around too much with the fishing, you still are at least standing versus sitting on a couch and watching a TV, and you're out there getting natural air and cleansing things in the environment. So, and you could also load up some videos. There's tons of family yoga. You can find videos on pretty much any exercise you want to do and have a family version of it. We have explosion of exercise videos out there right now. So please take advantage of our resources that we have in our society today to make sure your family's, healthy. And I talk about kicking the kids outside. We can still stay in our yard, in our homes, but stay, get them outside, not be so contained in our house. If the weather is nice, then make sure that they're getting that dose of vitamin N. I've heard from another doctor talk about nature. There has actually been a diagnosis called nature deficit syndrome with some kids because some kids have not been outside enough to get the natural things that we acquire in our outside environment. So making sure you're getting outside enough. So also avoid sitting more than an hour at a time. So, binge watching things, watching movies, take a break. We used to have intermission, I remember when I was young, for long movies, and we don't have that anymore. So if you can, stand up, stretch, take a break. Nowadays, we're streaming stuff. We can pause it at any time. Get up, take a break, do what you need to do, and then go back down. The research really actually states for the body to be healthy, it needs to move at least 10 to 15 minutes for every hour we're awake. So that's approximately about 3 to 4 hours. We should be some kind of movement in our day. Now, it also says, research says, for vigorous activities, so getting your heart rate up more consistent, like when you're doing the walking, the hiking, the biking, it should be at least 30 minutes a day. So I think that's pretty doable myself. So look into, when you take that inventory for your family, how much time are you doing unhealthy things, and see if you can switch it into some of these healthy things. So here's a healthy example of a family example. So they're happy, open to learning and growing, learning about each other and where their skill sets are, and helping each other excel, eating healthy snacks and healthy meals, being active in various activities, using natural cleaning products. And I have EOs, which is essential oils, which I didn't talk about, but that's pretty popular. Google essential oils, there's lots of good things there. And then, coming in to the chiropractor, getting adjusted regularly, making sure that their body is moving like it should be moving. That's what we do, and make sure their nervous system's optimally communicating. If you want more information on this, I have plenty of other talks I've talked about in the past. So go Google my other talks or go on my YouTube channel and look at all the other talks I have. Supplements, making sure that we're taking supplements. The reason why I say that is because we know in our society we are nutrient deficient, and even if we are trying to get those cups of vegetables and fruits, that we're still not getting enough nutrients in those because our vegetables and our fruits have been overcropped, and it's overcropped, and therefore we're not getting, they're nutrient deficient a little bit. So I recommend everyone, especially children and kids, anybody actually, to have at least a whole food multivitamin, and making sure they're getting omega-3 fish oil, at least 1 gram a day, and any trace minerals they might need for their body and how activity they are. So those kind of base foundation, depending on each family and what's going on with other things they do, then I'll give other recommendations. So thank you for joining me tonight, and Dr. Rachel Northern. My website is thedoctorandyou.com. We do have specials going on if you're in the local area and do want to have a consultation or see if you want to become a patient. Also, I have plenty of YouTube videos under Dr. Rachel Northern, DC, and our office number is 815-344-0113. And then I do have a book that kind of goes in more detail of things I've talked about, called A Journey to Vibrant Health, which is on Amazon. So thanks again for joining me. Take care and stay healthy.